Back in June, I asked my girlfriend to pick me 4 movies from any of my shelves that I hadn't actually got around to watching yet. There is a video here on my channel and I will link it somewhere right now. But the first movie that she picked and I ended up watching was The Descent. I came out of it with just meh thoughts and a few things that were left unanswered because of its ending. I still think that making your only non-white character the homewrecker and the technical bitch of the friend group is a questionable decision. So yes, you did do Juno dirty, creators of the first Descent. So here I am, The Descent Part 2, hoping to finally get some answers to what the hell the ending was of the first movie, and hoping that there's a bit better representation in this one. But this is 2009, so I'm not going to hold my breath on that bit. The authorities find a blood-covered Sarah Carter with no memory of what happened during the spelunking exploration. They decide to take her back to the cave where the incident occurred, where something sinister awaits them. As always here on my channel, I'm going to go and watch The Descent Part 2 off camera, so that way if you still want to watch this movie, nothing will be spoiled for you. Nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish.
Here we go again.
I have never felt the urge to go crawling around underground knowing that you could die from stupidity, equipment failure, or by simply being too big to fit in a small space, and that your remains could then be trapped in there for all eternity. And it's safe to say after watching The Descent, I still feel this way. I have seen way too many videos here on YouTube where I fell down the rabbit hole at one point to do with caving incidents that all end in a similar way, which is the cave was sealed off for the rest of the public, the family have now got a bench outside of the cave, and they never got the remains of the person that was the victim to the caving accident. Now when they said that they were taking Sarah back into the caving system, I didn't think that they meant immediately physically taking her out of her hospital bed and walking her straight back to the caving system where she could act like a guide less than 24 hours after crawling her way out of the caving system to begin with. What an asshole move by the detective in charge of this rescue mission. You wouldn't walk a survivor of a serial killer back to the crime scene and make them point out all the evidence. The sequel doesn't feel as tense or as claustrophobic as the original. It seems that there are a lot more open caverns and a lot less tight crawl spaces within this one. Like the first movie, this one relies an awful lot of jump scares that are then paired with peaks in the audio, and I wouldn't say that I was sound sensitive, but I hate this because sometimes when the sound is too loud, it pulls you straight out of the movie, and I find it really hard then to immerse myself back in the movie, and that is an issue that I had with this movie. The juxtaposition between the dialogue, which is very, very quiet in this, and then the sound of the music when it kicks in, it's just too much for me. I like that the levels of gore are consistent from the first movie to the second movie. In fact, I think they might have amped it up just a little bit going into the second movie. The texture of the blood looks off though. It's very if you've ever seen runny jelly, when it's when jelly isn't set correctly and it's that sort of gelatinous soup kind of consistency, that's what the blood looks like in this one. The creatures are exactly the same. They still look like a hybrid of a bat and then the Master from Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 1. It's what I expected though. This movie takes place directly after the first movie, days later at the longest. So they're exactly the same. I expected the same level of gore and violence from them, and that was consistent from the first movie. I don't find them scary, at all, and I think part of that has to do with how they work as a creature. They're very easy to combat if you know what to do. If you're listening, you can hear that they're using echolocation, so they're using sound to locate their victims. So the quickest way to combat them is to just not make any noise. They're not attracted to movement, it's just a sound. I had the same issue in the first movie as I do in the second movie with its characters, and that is, I really don't care who lives or dies. I was at no point connected enough to any of the characters to actually care what happened to them. And in a lot of cases, they did feel like throwaway characters. There's one scene in particular that I'm going to talk about because I have questions to do with that scene, but 2 characters in particular are there purely to be throwaway characters for that scene. To talk about that scene with the two throwaway characters, and I have questions about some strange decisions that happen in that scene. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you've seen the movie, hopefully you know the scene that I'm talking about. It involves the humans wrecking ball / pendulum, we'll say. Question number 1 is, where the hell did the power drill come from? And question 2, why does one single one of the creatures in this suddenly have a black bobbed hairdo? Like, did they have hair in the previous movie? Was I not paying attention? Because as far as I saw, there wasn't a single other one that would look like it was wearing a wig. I'm going to briefly touch on the ending. And again, I'm not going to spoil this, but I feel like I need to voice my opinions on this, because was the ending satisfactory? And the ending for me comes in 2 parts. Like, there's the part underground, and then there's the part overground. The part underground, I can understand why they made that decision, but the very end section that happens overground, I think in fact ruins the entire duology, because that isn't satisfying in the slightest. Like, that doesn't wrap up anything. The end minute is what I'm talking about here. Like, take the end minute off and it's fine. Leave the end minute in and I'm not satisfied at all. I feel like I'm missing something again. And I had the same issue when I watched the original movie. Like, I watched the first Descent and I came away from it thinking, I don't understand what the hype is around this movie. And now, watching the sequel, I feel the exact same. And I feel like both movies are just meh. And I feel that the sequel is even more meh for me. I wasn't expecting to like the sequel more than the original. And in fact, I didn't like the sequel more than the original. But I wanted to walk away from it feeling some kind of like satisfaction that I'd watched the duology as a whole. It had wrapped itself up in a nice bow and I could walk away and call it quits. And I don't feel that way about this series. I'm going to give The Descent Part 2 a 2 out of 5 stars. And I just don't think that this is a duology for me. And I don't think it is ever going to be a duology for me. And it's not something that I am going to come back in the future and rewatch. If I had to list things that genuinely give me the creeps when I watch horror movies, none of them are in the Descent duology. They're not. I'm not claustrophobic and I'm not scared of being underground. And they are the 2 main fears that I think that this movie tries to play on. But if you're somebody that, like, if you like jump scares, or if you're somebody that finds jump scares really effective on you, then sure, The Descent is probably something that you're going to like. But I've come to a point now where jump scares just don't have the same effect on me anymore. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my opinions to The Descent Part 2 from 2009. If you have seen The Descent or The Descent Part 2, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are down in the comment section below, because I feel like for the first movie, I am very much in the minority in not really liking the movie. I will be back on Friday with another solo movie review, but if you would like to know everything that I'm watching, not just the things that I post here on YouTube, you can find me over at Hordes of Horror over on Instagram as well. So until next time, bye!